is battle report time once more. First one of the calendar year is a game against my good friend Nat. I'm playing the Dread Elves. Nat is on the Ogre Khans. Before we get into that, if you have not done so already, I'm going to ask you to both like and subscribe. We will pop on the army lists in a moment, and you can pause and take a closer look if you like before getting into deployment. I hope you enjoy this one. So here we are in deployment then. We randomly generated map number 4. The deployment type was the Dawn Assault. That's the one where you kind of lose a corner. So I'm not deploying in this corner here, although you can see my scouts ended up quite close to this corner. And Nat is not deploying in this corner here. Nat decided to not deploy his Kin Eater and his Giant and bring them on as reinforcements, but I decided to bring my whole army on straight away. So let's just go through deployment. Then I'll start on my side at the top left. We've got the Shadow Wardens, then the unit of Acolytes, unit of Harpies, unit of Temple Militants with the General, unit of Temple Militants with the BSB, a Mist Lividian, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, one of those. Unit of Judicators, another unit of Harpies, and another unit of Judicators, then the Black Cloaks here deployed as scouts. On that side, unit of Trappers, unit of Saber-Tusked Tigers with a Mammoth Hunter, unit of Tribesmen with the Shaman, Tusker Cavalry, Rock, Mammoth Hunter on a Tusker, another unit of Tusker Cavalry, and another Mammoth Hunter with another unit of Saber-Toothed Tigers. So that is deployment. Just quickly into vanguards here. Nat was going first because he deployed his whole army first, so I finished deploying last, so I vanguarded first. I've actually just brought my Shadow Wardens up here. I didn't want to vanguard too far forwards and risk Nat charging at me because as you can see, my army is quite tightly packed. So I've got my 4 blocks here, all within 8 inches of my Mist Lividian. I need to make a decision about how I pronounce that, don't I? Anyway, they're all within 8 of it so that they can benefit from its giving them an extra 4 inches in their first turn when they march, so that the army is quite tightly packed around the centre. So I didn't want to risk them having to flee and you know, sort of going through multiple units and running off the board straight away. So I've just edged them forwards out of charge range if Nat doesn't decide to charge, and then he's just brought his 2 Saber-Toothed Tiger units with the Mammoth Hunters up as well. So there you go, that is vanguards. Nat, as I said, would get the first turn, so let's get into Nat's movement 1. So this is the end of Nat's movement 1. You can see that the Mammoth Hunters have both left the Tiger units and have gone sort of for this flanking position, although these both have javelins. The Mammoth Hunters get javelins or ogre crossbows, but which is better depends on the matchup really. Javelin's better against lots of monsters, but the ogre crossbow is better against MSU and non-monster units, non-single model units. So not a great matchup for them, but anyway, there they are. Tusker Cavalry, cautious advance here, looking for the charge on these units because of course they have the superior movement distance, don't they? Saber-Toothed Tigers backing off a little bit more cautious with those, keeping the Tribesmen lingering back a little. Similar with the Rock, and then he's trapped this wall over here with his trappers. So that's Nat's movement 1. Okay, not sure whether I mentioned Nat's General had joined this Tusker unit, so he's there anyway, just in case, just to avoid any uncertainty. So in Nat's magic phase, he actually banked 3 Veil tokens. There wasn't a lot he wanted to get through in terms of magic. The only decent spell he had that you know really made any difference at this point was the Totemic Beast, so I saved all my Dispel dice for that and got rid of it. And then in the shooting phase, the Rock with his crossbow killed 2 Judicators, and this hunter over here killed... No, sorry, that's not true. This hunter over here killed one black cloak with his spear. This one missed. So that was Nat's turn 1. Okay, my movement 1 here then. I declared 1 charge with the Judicators in the middle here. They had a 13-inch charge on these Tusker Cavalry, so slightly less than even's chance of making it. But I thought, you know what, if I get an 8, if I come springing out of the trap really early on, that's going to get Nat on the back foot. So I declared the charge. Didn't work, so I dropped a unit of Harpies in the way here. Brought the Black Cloaks up into the middle here. I'm planning on casting Stars Align on this unit and getting some re-rollable poison to shoot at the Rock with. Now there is a danger here because Nat obviously has to charge this unit of Harpies, and if he does, then he can overrun into the side of the Black Cloaks here. But what I'm hoping that will do is charge at the Black Cloaks as well, and then they'll be able to flee out this way. Then he can charge at my Executioners here, which will of course hurt. But I think the Executioners can take the charge, to be honest. Possibly I shouldn't have dropped the Harpies here. I should have possibly simply accepted a Tusker Cavalry charge in any of my units, although I do particularly want the Tusker Cavalry to come in to the Executioners, because the Executioners have got the great weapons and the AP4, whereas the Temple Militants don't. So I'm kind of okay with this. There's a possibility that Nat could declare just the 1 charge and then overrun into the side of the Black Cloaks, and of course he would smash through both, but if he did, he'd sort of end up somewhere over here, which would sort of open him up to a flank charge and sort of, you know, a run through here potentially. But anyway, we'll see how that goes. Other than that, the Miss Leviathan coming over this side here, just ready to anticipate and take on any of the reinforcements. Brought the fast cavalry, the Warlocks around here. The Warlocks are a bit of a glass cannon, so I don't really want them going up against any of these Tusker Cavalry units. I really want them fighting with the saber-toothed tigers, or you know, being a nuisance for the tribesmen over here. So that's why they're out of the arc of vision of the hunter as well. And then the fast cavalry have just snuck through this gap here, and are going to start peppering these tribesmen with some shooting, because of course we do have the capture the flags as the secondary objective. So I'm trying to take out the marked scoring units, and likewise Nat is trying to take out mine. So there you go, that was my movement 1. Okay, so end of my turn 1 then, and I did manage to get Stars Align off on the Black Cloaks. I've also put the aspect on them because I'm expecting Nat to charge them, and so I'm expecting to end up being somewhere over here. I don't want to rely on my BSB, so I've given them the minimized roll, so so that, you know, just so that I can rely on that a little bit for them rallying when they end up over here. As I say, I'm anticipating a charge here from Nat. So in my shooting phase, with the Stars Aligned, the Black Cloaks caused 3 wounds on the Rock, so that's a good return because it only has 6. And the Wardens did 2 wounds to the tribesmen over here. And that was it. So, end of my turn 1. Okay, so Nat's movement 2 here then. And he did charge at the Black Cloaks, as anticipated, who fled. And they ran through the Executioners and the Harpies. Executioners, Judicators they're now called, aren't they? And the Harpies. But all were within range of the General and the BSB. So, no panics, which was nice. Other than that, the other unit came here at the Harpies, who again were within the General and the BSB, so no panicking there. He's also charged at the Warlock Acolytes over here with his Tigers. I'm fine with that. The Acolytes are fairly nasty, so I'm okay to receive that charge. He's moved off the wall here with his Trappers, and he's going to start shooting at my Black Cloaks with his throwing weapons, and his Giant and his Kenitra have turned up on the board as well. There you go. That's Nat's movement 2. End of Nat's turn 2 here then. And he didn't have a very successful magic phase, actually. He only managed to get Swarm of Insects off, which killed only a single militant. So that was a bit disappointing for him. In his shooting phase, the Hunter over here did 2 wounds on the Mist Leviathan. The Rock did 1 wound on the Shadow Wardens. Over here, the Acolytes won against the Tigers, but the Tigers held because of the commanding presence of the Mammoth Hunter over here. The Tuskers in the middle smashed through the Harpies, as you would expect them to, and then reformed. And the Judicators over here got an absolute pounding, but with their Academy banner, they count as having 1 additional rank, so they were steadfast. So in spite of their pounding, they were able to hold on their, I think it was the General's discipline of 9, although their own is 8, and they've got a BSB within range as well. So that was the end of Nat's turn 2. My movement turn 2 here then, and you can see that the Judicators have charged the General's Tusker unit on the flank here, and the Militants have charged the other Tusker unit in the middle here. This unit of Militants did declare a charge against these tribesmen but failed it, which is why they're there. But I rolled it in such an order where they actually ran into the gap first and failed their charge, and ended up where they were before this unit charged in here, which is why the 1-inch rule is being ignored in the middle there. The Mist Leviathan also declared a successful charge on the Giant. The Black Cloaks failed their minimised Discipline 8 and ran off the board, but we didn't realise this at this point in the game. There is a just under an inch off the board edge here, although the photograph doesn't properly show it, but the models remained on the board. But we realised later on that it was the template, the footprint of the unit that counts. So I'd left those models there, but they won't do anything for the rest of the game anyway. So thinking that they were still on the board, I'd also dropped this unit of Harpies here to prevent the Mammoth Hunter from charging them off. But later on, as I say, I will realise that they shouldn't be there and remove them anyway. So there you go. That's that. Other than that, the Shadow Riders over here just coming around the side, getting out of all the charge arcs, getting away from the throwing weapons of the trappers, and just continuing to bother this unit of tribesmen. That's the end of my movement 2. On to the end of my turn 2. So in my turn, I only got one spell off in the magic phase, which was the Hand of Glory, giving my Acolytes here a 3-up ward save, which makes them very durable against the saber-toothed tigers. The Shadow Wardens did 4 wounds against the tribesmen from shooting, and that was the lot for shooting. The tigers broke from combat and were fled, but the Acolytes were not really in the mood for chasing them, and then actually set off the trap that Nat had put on this wall, killing 2 Acolytes in spite of their current 3-up ward save. The Judicators over here killed the General and chased down the Tusker unit. 1 model left in the original Judicators unit there, and the Militants in the middle here smashed through the Tuskers, which, because they charged, they probably should do, really, with the Rending banner in there as well. And they've also got the Warsmith as the Temple Militant, so that's having to re-roll successful armor saves as well. And then up in the corner here, the Leviathan and the Giant just sort of flailed around and waved at each other and did 0 wounds. I won combat by virtue of the fact that I charged, but the Giant held. So that was the end of my turn 2. That's movement 3 here then. 2 charges. The Rock has gone into the Militants here, and the Mammoth Hunter has gone into the Harpies here. It was during this turn that we realised that the Black Cloak shouldn't be there. So really the Harpy shouldn't be there, but such is life. Other than that, Saber-toothed Tiger failed to rally and continued to run, but not very enthusiastically. And the trappers got out of the way and went and set a trap in this field over here. Saber-toothed Tigers and Mammoth Hunter over here sort of lolling around, and the Ken-Eater's made his way up here, presumably going after this one remaining Judicator for the secondary objective bonus that might bring. That's the end of Nat's movement 3. Okay, so this is the end of Nat's turn 3. It is worth mentioning, and you may want to go back and have a look at this, but the Tribesmen and the Rock had tried to go at the Temple Wardens, Temple Militants rather, together, but hadn't been able to because the presence of the Shadow Wardens here had meant that Nat didn't really have the opportunity to move into position and close the door and manoeuvre around in the way that he would have liked. And one of those two units had to fail its charge, and Nat figured that the Rock was the harder hitter, so he went in with the Rock. So that was that. Anyway, so he got Awaken the Beast in the magic phase, but it wasn't to be of any use because I was wounding on 5s with it being with the Ruthless Efficiency rule, so +1 to wound in the first round of combat. The Levithian won combat against the Giant up here by 1, but the Giant held. The Rock did only 3 impact hits. It should do 3d3 impact hits, so that was a really poor performance for Nat. And then the Temple Legate did 2 wounds on the Rock, which was something of an overperformance. He's got AP 1, he's wounding on 5s. So yeah, out of 4 attacks, that was a bit of an overperformance. And the unit +1 to wound, so they were wounding on 5s as well. Although no AP in that particular case, but still. So the Rock dropped, and that was a bit disappointing, really. The Harpies were broken against the Mammoth Hunter over here, but not caught. So that was the end of Nat's turn 3. Okay, on to my movement 3 here then. So there have been 2 charges. The Temple Militants here going into the Tribesmen with the Shaman, and then the other Temple Militants going into the Ken-Eater over here. I decided not to charge at the Saber-toothed Tiger because I didn't want to get drawn into having to redirect or failing charges. I think it's quite likely with their repeater crossbows that they can take out this one guy here who has no armor saves. And then that will enable me to sort of hound this unit of trappers a little bit later on, perhaps. Up on the side here, I'm protecting this Judicator, or trying to at least, by putting these Judicators in the way here, and I'm trying to bait Nat into a charge here. I think the Judicators can hold against a unit of Saber-toothed Tigers on the flank. I don't think that he will beat off my Steadfast, and I've got my BSB over here as well for the rerolls, so I'm looking to bait him into a charge here while protecting this guy here, and then I'm hoping to beat him, to reform at the end of combat and then squarely finish him off in his own turn is the idea there. Over here, Harpies, as is to be expected, failed their rally and continued to run. So that was the end of my movement 3. End of my turn 3 then. I got Hand of Glory on the Acolytes in the magic phase, so if Nat does throw some more of those annoying throwing weapons at me, then I've got a 3-up ward save. Shadow Wardens took out the last Tiger over here with shooting, and then in combat the Militants here beat the Tribesmen. The Mage survived and fled but was not caught. I had got Stars Align off on this unit as well. So that was that. And then up here the Militants beat the Ken-Eater, but he is unbreakable, so he wasn't going anywhere. And then up in the top corner the Leviathan and the Giant sort of continued waving their arms at one another, did a wound to each other, I think. But yeah, combat was a draw. So that's the end of my turn 3. Okay, into Nat's movement 4 then. You can see his 2 tribesmen, sorry, not tribesmen, 2 mammoth hunters have come in at the depleted militant unit here, one on either flank. His shaman has rallied, which is a bit annoying because now he can cast a swarm of insects on my lone judicator over here. And he's not gone for the bait here with the flank charge with the tigers, instead electing to just sort of lurk around a little bit. And then he's moved up to the wall here and set a trap because he's expecting a charge, so he wants to inflict some damage as I go after these trappers. These trappers are really annoying. They're 80 points of nuisance, but if you don't get rid of them, they just throw shooting weapons at you all the time. But if you do get rid of them, they generally sort of hang around terrain features, trapping it and inflicting extra dangerous terrains on you, which is a complete pain. But you've got to get rid of them. So that's the end of Nat's movement 4. Okay, end of Nat's turn 4. I did forget to mention before this Mammoth Hunter charged at this unit, he did charge off the Harpies, of course, and then redirected into this unit. So, what happened in Nat's turn 4? Well, he got a swarm of insects on that lone judicator, finishing him off, so that's good for Nat, because that's a scoring unit that he's wiped out. He also got a totemic summon here, which he's placed in the way of this unit here. So I'm going to have to charge him and then overrun into him later. So that's keeping the shaman alive for a little while longer. The trappers here from shooting killed a single acolyte. And then the totemic beast did a breath weapon, killing 1 militant. Terrifying. The Leviathan and the Giant drew again, continuing to flap at one another. I think this time they did no wounds to each other. Yeah, and that was that. So that's the end of Nat's turn 4. On to my movement 4 then. A few charges in this one. The Acolytes and the Shadow Riders both charging the Trappers here. Fortunately, no deaths from the dangerous terrain from the traps this time, so that was nice. Militants charging the totemic beast here with the intention of overrunning into the shaman. And that was that, actually. 3 charges. Over here, I had a bit of a choice with the Judicators. Did I send them up this way and try and harass the Giant and try and save the Leviathan? Because the Giant's got that rage rule, so the more wounds he takes, the more attacks he gets. So his damage output is gradually increasing, and it's only going to be a matter of time before the Leviathan succumbs. Or do I go this way? And I decided in the end to go this way because I figured that the Mammoth Hunters are worth more points, and if I can get at the Mammoth Hunters, that's all to the good. I just need the Temple Militants to survive for 1 turn. That's an iffy prospect. There is also the fact that the Saber-toothed Tigers can charge me in the rear here, but we'll have to see. Anyway, that was the end of my movement 4. End of my turn 4 then, and I got Hand of Glory off on the Acolytes again, just to ensure against any freak dice rolls and killing off my mage. Don't want any of that. Militants and the BSB were killed in combat by the Mammoth Hunters here. And the Giant suddenly went berserk and inflicted 4 wounds on the Leviathan, having done 2 in sort of 4 or 5 goes. He's now done 4 in 1 go. Trappers were killed over here, and the totemic beast was killed over here, and I overran into the shaman. So I'm hoping that it's time for the shaman to die now. That's the end of my turn 4. Okay, and on to Nat's movement 5 here then. And he has charged at the Judicators now in the rear. With this unit having been beaten before, then this puts the Judicators in a slightly precarious position because they've only got 5 attacks instead of the 10 with being charged on the rear. And without the BSB, they're going to be steadfast, but the Tigers will probably win now. So it's a discipline 8. So that's a risky situation. The odds are still in my favour, but not as much as they were. And then, of course, he's just kind of hiding behind the house up here and getting his characters out of the way. So that's the end of Nat's movement 5. And into Nat's turn 5 then. So we got Children of Umi off on the Wizard, which makes me -1 to wound, so he's effectively negated my +1 to wound. And his resilience now is 6, so I'm wounding him on 6s. And then you can see that as a consequence of that, the shaman survived. I didn't inflict any wounds on him. I beat him by static combat resolution, but he held. So that was that. And then the Judicators lost combat, but were able to reform and are now facing the Tigers. So that's the end of Nat's turn 5. On to my movement 5 then, and only 2 units to move, the 2 cavalry units. I've brought the Acolytes into the middle here so that they can buff either unit with spells, should they choose to do so. And I've brought the Riders up here with a view to them possibly getting a bit of shooting off in turn 6. So that's the end of my movement 5. On to my turn 5 then. I've got Hand of Glory off on the Judicators, giving them a 6-up ward just to make them a little bit more durable against all of those saber-toothed tiger attacks. And then they would win combat and chase down and catch the tigers. Over here though, the Judicator, the Shaman continues to endure against this Temple Militant unit, which really just goes to show actually that the Temple Militants, they're great in the first round of combat and they're great if you buff them, but if it's not the first round of combat or they're not buffed, they become quite lame really. And the fact that one Shaman is holding them up for so long really just sort of testifies to that, I suppose. So anyway, that was the end of my end of my turn 5. And into Nat's movement 6, and all he's done, of course, is gone cowered bravely in the corner with his giant and his 2 mammoth hunters, putting me firmly out of range for my turn 6. End of Nat's 6 movement. And then into Nat's turn 6, and you can see that finally the Shaman has succumbed to just static res. Actually, he eventually lost his discipline 8 - 4. So yeah, that was the end of him, and he was caught by the militants at the end. And then we decided not to play my turn 6 because I have no prospect of getting up into this corner with any kind of meaningful attacks. So yeah, we decided not to play my turn 6 because nothing could be achieved in it. So at the end of the game, Nat had scored 2,937 points to my 3,650, so that was a difference of 713, a 12-8 to me. I have killed 3 of Nat's scoring units. He's killed 2 of mine, so I pick up the secondary objective, making that 12-8 a 15-5. I felt that Nat played quite well in this game. I think he was on for a 20-0 earlier in the game when the Tusker Cavalry and later the Rock were beaten. He was on the back foot, but through some smart decisions, he clawed some points back. I also think Nat was quite unlucky in this game as well. I mean, his Tusker Cavalry, when they ran in, they should have done more damage to the Judicators. And the Rock as well. 3 impact hits from the Rock was just shocking. So, yeah. Anyway, that was the end of the game. 15-5, a good game. An enjoyable start to the new year. So thank you to Nat for the game. And yeah, that's it for today, guys. I hope you've enjoyed that one. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.